Moving in with my boyfriend, M23 felt like a dream until reality hit. I'm tired of being the one who brings everything up, I confessed after scrubbing the bathroom while he played video games. With worries piling up, is it time to confront the red flags or risk losing us? Summary, I seek advice on how to constructively express my concerns to my boyfriend. I worry that the minor issues bothering me may escalate into something larger that I should not ignore, especially since our lives are becoming increasingly intertwined. I apologize for the length of this post, especially for mobile users. I have no intention of breaking up. I genuinely love my boyfriend and we usually manage to work through our problems. However, I feel exhausted and need to express my feelings without fearing my tone or making him feel attacked. I would appreciate guidance on how to move forward. This may turn into a rant. I am unsure of how justified my feelings are and I recognize that there are two sides to every situation. Please keep in mind that this reflects my biased perspective, especially after feeling fatigued and somewhat hurt. I feel guilty for even writing this, but I worry I might be heading for trouble. I am a 25-year-old female and my boyfriend is a 23-year-old male. We have been together for nearly a year, living at opposite ends of the country. I traveled 7 hours each way every couple of weeks to visit. He has a very good and stable job, and we decided that since I did not have any commitments where I was living, I was staying with family after returning from traveling, I would move in with him. We are set to move in together in 2 weeks, but I have been staying with his parents for the past 2 months while I started working down here. The past couple of months have been challenging for us. I struggled a lot after moving down and discovered I was pregnant. I knew I would require an abortion, but it progressed into a complicated miscarriage, and 3 weeks ago, I experienced significant hemorrhaging at the emergency room where he was incredibly supportive. The experience of pregnancy and miscarriage made my behavior difficult to manage, and it nearly caused a rift in our relationship. I am still very exhausted from losing a significant amount of blood and taking a week off work without pay. I do not have many savings. My car broke down last week due to wear and tear, and it will be costly to repair, so all of this has taken a toll along with the trauma. I do not really have any friends here, and I have lacked the energy or time because I rushed to get a less than ideal job to facilitate my move. I did not have friends in my previous location, as it was a temporary living situation, but I remained in the country when the relationship began. I am an artistic and creative person, but the area has proven to be quite expensive and honestly boring. I wanted to start some martial arts classes but received pushback and he suggested Pilates instead. We went back and forth until he eventually acquiesced. He expresses disappointment that I have not become more involved, but I have been so tired and have made considerable efforts to engage with his family, his club, and my work. I have become very invested in my boyfriend's hobby as a way to spend time together, which occupies most of our weekends and weeknights, but he is often preoccupied with his phone or his thoughts. Nonetheless, this hobby is not mine, and I am feeling somewhat lost. I love to travel, but I agreed to stay here for a couple of years while we save money to explore other opportunities together. I was apprehensive about this arrangement, but he has assured me that we will indeed travel. If we were not together, I would likely be traveling right now. I remained in my previous location for a year to uphold our relationship. Given all this and my current feelings of restlessness and exhaustion, I am questioning whether I am overreacting to some of the issues that are bothering me. He has consistently praised my emotional intelligence, but I feel at times as though I am teaching him to manage his feelings. He is an only son, which sometimes leads him to appear quite short-sighted. I am writing this after we agreed to discuss the idea of going away for a few days around my upcoming birthday, but he downloaded a PlayStation game related to his hobby and sat next to me in silence for nearly 2 hours instead. I prepared dinner for him and his family tonight, something he rarely does. He occasionally puts together some ready meals for us, but he generally prefers dining out. This really dampened my mood. Earlier, we were all cleaning our new house, and I scrubbed the bathroom thoroughly while he simply dusted the blinds. There are 4 or 5 windows. I had to dash from work because he mentioned that his mother wanted us to leave early and seemed quite stressed. My intuition told me something was off, so I asked whether he had requested to leave early to make time for his hobby. He initially said no, then changed his answer to yes a few minutes later, claiming he did not want to be reprimanded. He is aware that I worry about upsetting his mother and the minor lies bother me. They occur frequently, yet he just chuckled. He is also very forgetful regarding plans, tasks he has promised to complete, and needs to be urged to do almost all household chores. He will not do laundry without assistance, requires reminders to shower, even when he has a perspiration rash, resists my reminders to do so, complains about his body but refuses to go to the gym. When I encourage him, he often becomes irritable. He does not unload the dishwasher unless it is necessary to load it. He does not walk his family dog as he is slow, so his parents ask me to do it, even though we both work from home quite often. He has had a very intense and overbearing mother, which I believe has contributed to his resistance to doing things he does not choose for himself. Although I feel hopeful and he has reassured me that this will change when we move in together within a couple of weeks, it is becoming increasingly tiring. He also mentioned he would quit smoking for fun, yet he found a vape related to it the same day he ran out and uses that every day. While not overwhelming, he knows I disapprove and he assured me he would stop. Initially, he described the vaping as a precaution rather than a habit, but it has become a daily occurrence. When I confront him about it, he either becomes annoyed or brushes it off. We both experience anger during arguments, and while he occasionally says hurtful things he does not mean, he expects me to move on quickly. I have trained myself to avoid this behavior, but when we disagree and my tone seems disrespectful, he calls me out for it. He is incredibly defensive, which exacerbates my distress. For example, he forgot to consider the sensitivity I am experiencing regarding intimacy following the miscarriage, and his actions unintentionally triggered painful memories by being too rough. Once more, his parents are quite intense, and he has mentioned seeking therapy. He has randomly stated that he feels like a terrible boyfriend, which I remind him is something he despises hearing from his mother, but he brushes it off. He claims I frequently twist things and he often apologizes. He does apologize a lot, but it does not always seem warranted. He forgets many details and can be quite self-centered, which has been really challenging given everything that has occurred in recent months. I truly love him. I admire his determination, passion, and kindness towards others. He possesses a charismatic personality and my family adores him. He is also very flattering, has not given me any reasons to feel jealous, speaks very highly of me in front of others, and is generous with his finances since he earns significantly more and enjoys buying things. However, this aspect of our relationship is becoming increasingly difficult to navigate, especially since we cannot even dedicate time to discuss how our partnership will function, other than the vague arrangement of a 60-40 split when we move in. Recently, we visited our new house to take measurements, and I found him sitting on the couch engaged with his phone rather than assisting me. If I do not push for a discussion, it simply will not happen, and this applies to several topics. He frequently mentions his plans to propose this year and confidently states that we will never break up since we work through our issues, and we do. Still, the process can be quite draining, especially on top of everything since my move down here, as I often feel like I must explain everything. Today, for instance, I encountered stress while juggling work, financial matters, and my car situation. He came to tell me he wanted me to know that he was being easygoing about the idea of going away, hoping not to add to my stress, but I wish he would have simply offered to help or made suggestions. Now, it has become another item on my unending list of things to address, or else they will be overlooked. He often remarks that I am indecisive and prefers when I clearly state what I want, but I am exhausted. At the start of our relationship, I appreciated that he embodied a certain masculinity and took charge of aspects of our lives. I have always been hyper-independent due to a traumatic childhood, so I admired this trait and his commitment to our relationship. He brought up marriage and serious future plans very early on. However, unless there is a crisis, a situation in which he excels, this assertiveness seems to have diminished. I vowed not to engage in the process of teaching a man how to communicate his feelings, plan our dates, or request that he buy flowers or offer me a coffee when he prepares one. But I feel like I am reverting to that role. I am now feeling a bit panicky, but I may just need to vent, along with some trauma therapy for the experiences of the past few months and time for us, especially once we have our own space, since I know that will significantly alleviate his stress. I recognize my own biases and acknowledge that I contribute to our arguments and stubbornness. We are both strong-willed individuals and we are working on improving this aspect. I genuinely believe that when we actively try, we can overcome any obstacle, but I am currently feeling overwhelmed. I would appreciate any advice on how to bring up these concerns in a constructive manner. He has agreed to couples therapy in theory, and I genuinely want to pursue this, but I want to ensure he does not feel attacked. Story 2. I'm breaking up with my loving partner, Beatrice, because their family is withholding therapy and expect me to be their entire support system. Their mom even told me, "You signed up for this responsibility." Now I'm left wondering how to end this without causing chaos. I, a 30-year-old male, have been dating my partner, a 26-year-old female non-binary individual, for 7 months, and I am on the verge of ending the relationship. She is very loving, kind, creative, and supportive. However, while we are both autistic, she has needs and dependencies that I do not have the capacity to support alone, and I discovered that her family is actively withholding therapy and assistance. They expect me to fulfill all of her emotional, mental, and social needs. When I made the decision to withdraw, her mother immediately accused me of gaslighting and manipulating her daughter for sex because I did not fight harder while claiming my intentions throughout the relationship were for marriage. We met through a dating application called Hickey last year, shortly after my birthday. After nearly everyone in my life disengaged, I retreated from my main social circle and focused strictly on myself and a few close friends. I stopped socializing for others and invested most of my energy in my job. We began communicating in August, but our interaction did not become consistent until September, and we went on our first date in October. We are both autistic but on somewhat different parts of the spectrum. I am high functioning, I maintain a social life, work consistently, and can have a fulfilling social life. My partner, let's refer to them as Beatrice, is mid-high functioning. They graduated high school but their parents allowed them to stay at home until the age of 21, require medication for their mental health, and have not been active outside for more than 6 years. They are reclusive and chronically online, leading to their only source of social interaction being toxic engagements and instances of bullying. Due to their needs, I needed to collaborate with her family throughout the relationship. Her family comes from a wealthy background, and while I had respect for them, there were significant issues. Every other day, they begin the morning with screaming matches over money at 9 a.m. Their youngest child has low-functioning autism, and they do little to foster empathy or structure. He throws temper tantrums and almost caves in to his demands. Regarding my partner, they broke their tibia in half over Christmas. It took their parents nearly 3 weeks to take them to a doctor for a cast. Throughout the relationship, there has been constant pressure from their family for me to relocate from my house in New York to New Jersey and to quit my job to work either at their company or for them directly. While the financial offer has been compelling, I enjoy my job and have worked hard to earn a promotion and maintain a position that allows flexibility for my personal life. Every time I visit Beatrice, her parents interrogate me about the necessity of obtaining a driver's license, as it is a requirement for me to move in with Beatrice in an apartment under their name, since I must always be available to transport them to appointments and other places. Beatrice has admittedly not improved the situation. Due to their lack of a social life, they often rely on me to meet all of their social and sexual needs. I would communicate with them every day multiple times. However, they often become so lonely that they bombard my phone with upwards of 30 messages while I am at work, spending time with friends or engaging in my hobbies. We have discussed this issue before and they promise to respect my boundaries. However, they regress after a few weeks. Although it is often frustrating, it is a symptom of a larger issue. Beatrice has no social life or support to develop one. They have not had any social interactions since graduating high school in 2019, have not undergone therapy in years, and the doctor who treated their tibia mentioned that a contributing factor was a lack of bone density due to excessive time spent on computers and phones for years. The absence of support has led me to attempt to educate them on my own, but there is only so much I can do as one person dealing with my own mental health struggles while balancing my personal life. Everything reached a breaking point the other day. Beatrice had bombarded my phone dozens of times over the past week because they missed me, despite the fact that I communicate with them every day and that our last in-person encounter was nearly a week together at my place about 3 weeks ago. I was scheduled to spend the weekend with her and her family. However, on the morning of our meeting, she inundated my phone with almost 30 messages in the span of an hour. There were multiple tasks I needed to complete before arriving, and I could not be patient any longer. I informed Beatrice that I was canceling our plans for the weekend because I needed space to breathe and requested that she not contact me until Monday. She was upset for crossing my boundaries and agreed, but then her mother intervened. Her mother stated that it was she who instructed Beatrice to reach out to me to inquire about when I was coming. After I explained the excessive contact, her mother conceded that it was somewhat insensitive, but insisted that my cancellation of the weekend constituted a punishment. I maintained that a boundary should not be misconstrued as a punishment and that I was not rewarding that type of behavior. I was then told that her daughter is not a child, despite how much this family has infantilized her and thwarted any efforts toward Beatrice gaining independence. I remained firm in my decision not to come over. I received a follow-up call from her mother yesterday requesting that I rectify the situation. Beatrice has written dozens of letters throughout her home, apologizing to me for violating my boundaries and insisting that I should end the punishment. I reiterated that setting boundaries is not a punishment and that after Monday I intended to talk to Beatrice and explain my perspective, but I needed my space. Her mother's response was that while I do not perceive it as a punishment, they do, and that their feelings take precedence over my annoyance. This devolved into a discussion about how this reflects a much larger problem regarding Beatrice's lack of a life outside of me, and I cannot bear this responsibility alone. I inquired about the day program and therapy Beatrice was supposed to begin before the ankle fracture, and I learned that her mother had no intention of seeing that through. Her mother expected me to shoulder the responsibility of developing Beatrice's social skills in life if there was any to be had. I was told, "You are both autistic, but you were not raised with the notion of having a disability. This is who she is and you must simply accept that." I provided examples of Beatrice overcoming her lack of skills or understanding, illustrating that she could lead a relatively normal life if her family actually followed through with the necessary support. Her mother once again dismissed my arguments, stating that Beatrice only achieved those accomplishments because of my influence and that she could not do it alone. Her mother insisted that this was the role I agreed to and that it was my responsibility. I expressed that I had reached my limit. This situation exceeded what I had expected when I entered the relationship, and I was assured that Beatrice would receive therapy and support, not that I had to be constantly available to fulfill her entire universe. As soon as I expressed that, I was accused of taking advantage of her and of misleading her regarding my intentions to marry her. I refuted that I had not deceived her, but I cannot support her without any backing from her family, and then I hung up. I am simply devastated. I met someone I genuinely grew to love, but their needs are far too overwhelming for me to manage. Their family seems to want to offload their child onto me so they can avoid any burdens on their end. My partner is not a leech or a parasite. Most of her conditions are not her fault. Beatrice desires to lead a semi-normal life with friends, a partner who loves her, and to be appreciated for who she is. Her family is unwilling to do anything to promote her independence, choosing instead to keep her in a perpetual state of limbo, lacking a sense of adulthood while throwing money at her material needs. That is not a life, and I know that my partner is capable of much more with the right support. I just cannot do it alone. I am still trying to figure out what to say when I break up with her tomorrow. My friends are advising me to tell her the truth, but that will only incite more family drama. There is also a chance Beatrice might not believe me or that her mother will manipulate her into not believing me. I understand I need to say something, but I do not know how to approach it. Honestly, I would prefer to leave a voice message, but everyone insists that I have given her 7 months, and she deserves to know the truth, even if she may not accept it. I am simply sad and disappointed by the situation and Beatrice's family. In summary, I must break up with my partner due to their family withholding essential support for her autism and mental health issues. I alone do not have the capacity to provide what she needs, and it is beyond my ability. How should I proceed with this breakup? Story 3. Caught my BF lying about his porn addiction for 2 years. I really thought hiding would spare your feelings. After I uncovered everything, even his Reddit history, I realized he gaslit me. You saw what? Now I'm torn between love and betrayal. What do I do? Title Summary. I discovered my boyfriend was lying and concealing a pornography addiction. I do not typically seek relationship advice on Reddit, as I fear criticism. However, my boyfriend and I, who have been together for 2 years, have recently faced some trust issues, and I am uncertain about how to proceed. The situation began when I jokingly asked him while we were watching a show if he still watched pornography. His nervous reaction prompted me to ask again, as he had previously claimed that he no longer viewed it. I am a very straightforward person, so I know that I have inquired about this topic more than once during our relationship. He ended up saying he had not accessed Safari for a while, explaining that he did not want to show me because he thought it would upset me. Eventually, I insisted he tell me the truth. He revealed his incognito browser, which still contained some videos. This revelation affected me significantly because, during our first year together, I had made it clear that I felt uncomfortable when he followed Instagram models, and he agreed to unfollow them. He understands my feelings about pornography and social media since it can be highly exploitative. He insisted he had not watched it since the middle of last year, and I believed him. However, when he was asleep, I felt a nagging suspicion and decided to check his browser. I acknowledged that it was wrong, but ultimately it clarified things for me. I accessed his browser using my Face ID on his phone to look through incognito mode, where I discovered he was using Reddit. The timestamps on Reddit indicated that his activity was much more recent than he had claimed 12 days ago, 17 days ago, and 21 days ago. I cannot adequately express the emotions I felt as I scrolled through his history, realizing he was still engaging with it. I found myself crying at 3 a.m. while he slept beside me, and I felt lost about what to do. The following day, we had a heart-to-heart conversation where he sincerely apologized, expressing that he was incredibly sorry for upsetting me with what I had seen, despite the previous night's revelations. I asked him to show me his phone again, and he was unaware that I had already gone through it. I then discovered that he had deleted everything. His Reddit history was completely wiped, and only safe-for-work content remained. I questioned why everything was missing, and he claimed it had been deleted or that he had deleted it himself. I am unsure. Regardless, it was gone by that point. I should have confronted him with what I knew, but for some reason I found myself believing his words. I considered the possibility that he might have shared the account with someone else. The reason I found myself trusting him was that he continued to repeat his apologies, and this was the first time he had cried in our relationship. I understand it sounds trivial, but it affected me. Despite having proof on my phone, I began to think it might be his brother's account, which was clearly a form of denial. The next time I saw him 2 weeks later, I invited him over so we could talk. My intention was to gradually reveal what I knew to see how much he would continue to lie to me. I already had the truth, I merely wanted him to admit it. We walked for some time, but I did not feel prepared to initiate the tough discussion, so I suggested we go home. I received a call from him and he was in my local park crying. I hurried to him with water and food and we sat on a bench to talk. I inquired about why his Reddit history was empty and even mentioned that I had seen it before he deleted it. Again, he swore he did not know what had happened, and I started to question my own understanding. My confusion was genuine. I asked whether he shared the account, to which he responded no. I asked him to call his brother to confirm that his brother had not used the account. He did call his brother in front of me, but after some silence and further questioning, he finally admitted that it was indeed his account and that he had deleted the history. Throughout all of this, I did not cry, yet he was in tears. This marked the second time I had seen him cry in our relationship. He assured me he would change and did not want me to feel sad or angry when he finally told me the truth. I felt relief knowing I had always been right about the evidence. The reason I doubted myself so much was that I had not taken a picture of the account name, but as I mentioned, everything matched on his cleared phone as it only retained safe for work content. He effectively manipulated me into thinking I was being irrational for believing that Reddit would randomly delete the history. The next day, I reviewed all the evidence I had and attempted to trace the videos from Safari to determine whether or not he had ceased watching pornography based on their upload dates. Unfortunately, I could not find anything, as he had utilized an obscure website that did not display upload dates. All I had left was the evidence from Reddit. The day after that, I arranged to meet him again. He presented me with a card stating he would change. It read, "I am sorry for everything and for lying to you. It was wrong of me to do so, and I believed that at times hiding the truth would spare you from feeling upset about reality. I now see that this was the wrong approach and I am truly sorry. I recognize that I have not been the best boyfriend, but I want to change all that and be different." I hoped that during this discussion we would reach a different conclusion. Instead, he simply reiterated the same lies we had already addressed. I do not think he comprehended that I had actually seen the content he had been viewing and taken pictures of it. Throughout this situation, I remained surprisingly calm because I knew I was right. I proposed a game where he would pull out his cleared phone while I showed him the pre-cleared pictures, allowing us to spot the difference. I understand that this may sound cruel, but it was the only way I could cope through humor. He looked shocked when he noticed that I actually possessed pictures and proof that left him no room to continue lying to me. I regret not revealing my discoveries during our initial conversation instead of repeatedly meeting with him just to hear more lies. I recited his card back to him, and it seemed he went back on everything he had stated. This was meant to be his second chance. I feel utterly devastated and am unsure what to do. He was my first everything, and everyone thought we were meant to be together. I wish there were a way to resolve this, but I do not know how to avoid harboring animosity and resentment towards him. A few months ago, on our 2-year anniversary, he gave me a ring. I attempted to return it, but he refused to accept it. In a moment of frustration, I considered throwing it into a nearby river, yet it was challenging to follow through, so I simply went home 3 minutes away and retrieved the box it came in. I removed all the memories I wanted to eliminate from my house and placed them in a bag. I discovered him on the other side of the fence, searching for the ring I had tossed. I asked him to take the bag, as I no longer wanted any part of this relationship. I requested that he inform everyone he cared about that we were no longer together and explain the reason. He insisted he wanted a second chance and that I should reconsider my decision, to which I replied that this was already his second chance. He began to cry, and I could see he felt regret, guilt, and shame. In all honesty, I am more upset about the lies he told me than the discovery itself. I know that if I had not possessed physical evidence, I would have started to doubt my own perceptions. I was genuinely happy with him, even during difficult times. I envisioned my future alongside him, but now I am uncertain about what to do. While I realize it is unwise, I still want to give him another chance. He has many admirable qualities, and it is disappointing that he could not overcome his addiction. I wish I could be oblivious enough to overlook this as just another bump in our relationship. I long to stay with him and to forget that this ever happened. I truly do not know how to proceed. Everyone around me believes he is a wonderful person, and I have tried to maintain that perception by not disclosing the issues in our relationship. I am aware that the most logical choice would be to break up. Yet I constantly reflect on the times I cried in his arms during this ordeal, moments when he continued to feed me more lies because he feared my anger or sadness. I think about all the happy moments we shared and how I imagine what our future would look like. I know he loves me and intended to safeguard my feelings, and I understand how foolish that may sound. I recognize this may be a confusing account, but is there any advice you could offer if I decide to stay or if I choose to leave? Any guidance would be appreciated. Story 4. At 14, I knew Chris was my soulmate, but after a painful breakup, he promised, "I'll kill myself," and I thought we'd reunite. 11 years after his tragic suicide, I still can't escape the guilt of our lost future together. Will I ever heal from this? When I was 14, I met the love of my life, Chris. Many people believe that it is impossible to know true love at that age, but I recognized my feelings from the very moment I first saw him. I can still recall the exact moment I laid eyes on him. It felt as though time paused and we were the only two people in the world. He was the kindest and most loving person I had ever encountered. He was consistently there for me, making me laugh and feel secure. Unfortunately, we did not live in the same city, and my parents were very strict, allowing us to see each other only 2 days a week. However, we communicated through phone calls and text messages constantly. Being a teenager, however, was quite challenging. I faced bullying at school and I struggled academically, spending a significant amount of time just to pass my classes. Concentrating was difficult for me and I also had dyslexia. I did not have a good relationship with my family either, which made Chris my sanctuary. Still, I felt depressed and did not want to burden him with my struggles. When I began high school, my life improved significantly. I received a fresh start in a new city and made new friends. Nonetheless, I was still battling depression, so I decided to break up with him because I believed he deserved to be with someone happier. I fabricated an excuse, knowing that if I told him the truth, he would have stayed with me, but I wanted better for him. Instead, I ended up breaking his heart. He told me he was going to take his own life, but he did not follow through at that time. I always thought we would reunite once I felt better and live the life we had envisioned. About 6 months later, I entered a new relationship with Frank as I did not want to be alone. Our relationship was extremely abusive, both physically and emotionally. Frank also cheated frequently, but I felt I deserved it because of the way I had hurt Chris. Frank moved in with me and my family after his parents kicked him out. The abuse and gaslighting escalated, leading me to develop anorexia due to his hurtful comments. My parents were unaware of my situation because I was too scared to confide in them. After a year, he moved out to his own place. I remained in that relationship for 2 years and only left when I had to choose between my life and the relationship. I was at my lowest, barely surviving, but I still thought that if I improved my mental health, I might have a chance to reconcile with Chris. Chris and I began talking again, but I was too afraid to ask if we could give our relationship another chance, and I was more depressed than ever. We did not meet in person, but our conversations continued. I attended therapy and worked hard to improve my situation. I refrained from mentioning my feelings as I did not want to cause him any further pain. By this time, it had been 6 years since we broke up, but I had not moved on from him. During this time, Frank had begun to stalk me, attempting to befriend my friends. I was terrified of him. After a year, I did not want to be alone, but I was also too scared to ask Chris for a second chance. Consequently, I entered another relationship with Carl, which was also abusive. I again felt I deserved the treatment I received. However, I was aware that he could protect me from Frank, and after a few months, Frank stopped stalking me. Then one day, a friend sent me a message saying that Chris had taken his own life, but I could not accept it. How could this be true? We were supposed to live our lives together once I recovered and found the courage to ask for another chance. I refused to believe it. I did not attend the funeral because in my mind it could not be true, and if it was, how could I endure that? I was still in therapy but did not want to take medication, believing I could heal without it. After 6 months, I broke up with Carl and had to relocate to escape him. I moved to the city where I had started university when one day, I was overwhelmed with emotions and realized the truth. Chris was really gone. I had been in survival mode for so long to protect myself that once I felt safe, the truth hit me hard. I sought therapy again, and since I continued to have concentration problems in school, they recommended a neuropsychological assessment to determine whether I had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. However, the clinic that conducted assessments insisted that I needed to begin taking medication for my depression, as it was the only way to commence the evaluation process. They prescribed me medication to the extent that I became completely numb, feeling as if I were high all the time, fainting frequently, and struggling with my eating disorder. I endured this state for an extended period, but when they adjusted my dosage, my depression worsened. My psychologist took me to the emergency room for mental health patients because I was extremely suicidal, but they would not admit me, saying that I simply needed rest. They prescribed me sleep medication and began another assessment to determine if I had borderline personality disorder. Additionally, Frank resumed stalking me, forcing me to change my name, relocate, and acquire a new phone number to avoid being found. Despite all the medication and therapy, I expected to eventually overcome my feelings for Chris, but it grew more challenging as I surpassed the age he was when he passed away. Every year, from his birthday to the 31 days following his death, I experienced periods of deep depression. It has been 11 years since his passing, and each year seems to intensify the pain. Many people in my life have suggested that I should simply move on, as years have passed and we were only teenagers when we were together. I have been in relationships since his death, but none have lasted as I constantly find myself reflecting on the life I could have shared with him. I wish I could cease loving and missing him. For years, I blamed myself for his suicide because he told me he would take his life when I broke up with him. I have come to understand that his last year was difficult. He lost his father, with whom he was extremely close, to cancer, and he had carried a heavy burden to support his mother and siblings through the process. His mother passed away a year later due to a broken heart, and she also blamed herself. I will never truly know why he made that decision, and I think about it constantly, wishing I could turn back time and not break up with him. Perhaps then he would still be alive. I regret not telling him the truth and giving him the opportunity to decide for himself whether he wanted to stay or leave. I vividly remember the last time I saw him. We had planned to meet on my birthday as we both were going out in the same city and he intended to buy me a birthday drink. However, we missed each other, and while I was standing in the bar, I saw him pass by outside the window. It was just as it had been the first time I noticed him. Everything stood still and it felt like just the two of us. Our eyes met, he smiled and waved, and then walked away with his friends to catch the last bus home. I no longer know how to cope with these feelings and the guilt. I have been in therapy and on various medications for over 11 years now, yet nothing seems to help. I long to be with him. The highlight of my day is going to bed because if I dream about him, it feels for a moment as though he is alive and I can be with him. I wish I could move on, but I do not seem able to do so, and I fear that I will carry this sorrow for the rest of my life. I understand we were just teenagers, but he was and is the love of my life. I have never loved anyone and have never been loved by anyone like him. We had a whole life planned together and I cannot stop thinking about it. He was such a wonderful person, loved by many, yet it seems most people have moved forward while I cannot. How does one get over the death of the love of their life?